some good roads. We are back down in the dungeon, here to tackle a different kind of project with you today. After the whole kerfuffle with the recycled plastic snowboard-based material, I very much wanted to soldier on, but I also wanted to take some time to clear my head a little bit, get myself back into a good working space, so that I could come at the next stage of that project with solid footing and give myself the best chances of success going forward. One of the things I wanted to do as a part of that was to clean and reorganize the shop space. And I mean, it's mostly chores, right? Well, no, not really. When you think about designing a tool, let's say you're designing a chisel, there's a lot of things that this rather plain object has to do. You have to be able to hold it multiple ways, so it has to fit in your hand in a bunch of different grips. There's the possibility that you're going to strike it with a hammer. And then there's the blade end, so that it has to carry force all the way through from the handle into the blade. The blade needs to be made of a certain kind of steel so that it can be sharpened. The geometry of the blade needs to be a certain way so that it can make different kinds of cuts. To get a chunk of metal that's usable as a chisel, you have to solve a lot of problems to make it a utilitarian tool. Well, what is a shop but probably the most important tool? So I wanted to talk about this more as a design challenge and talk about my thinking about how I could take this space and beyond just cleaning it, because that needed to happen. I wanted to think about what I could do to make the space work better for me. Allow me to work quicker, allow me to work with less frustration. Probably shouldn't be holding a sharp chisel. Make it into a better tool. And there's a couple reasons behind that. One is the obvious one of just having a better tool, so it's nice. But the other is, I'm doing this at a hobbyist level right now. I'm balancing the time I spend in the shop with a full-time job, relationships, friendships, other hobbies, and of course, writing the actual boards that we make down here. So when you've got a limited amount of time to spend with a passion like this, you really want to be getting the most out of it and make it as pleasant and enjoyable as possible. So those are kind of the requirements that we're going to have to try to solve as we go through and do some spring cleaning in the shop. So let's do it. This is the powder surfer mold that I made last year. Put a lot of work into it. It's my first snowboard mold, but it didn't work, and it's just here taking up space. I can't reuse the material, so it's going in the trash. Back in this back part of the basement, I've also got a whole bunch of old decks. First board I ever made, probably want to hang on to it. The sad part is the dungeon floods when it rains, so I've got all these ends that are just dirty, rotty. Some of this stuff might not be worth keeping. A board that I did under contract that the guy never paid for, it's got a Jersey sticker on the end of it. Trash. Nothing against Jersey, it's just waterlogged and got mildew on it, and it was a deck that no one was going to buy anyway. So there's a board that I made out of material that I salvaged from a demolition site. Let's hang on to that one. That one's still in pretty good shape. The second board I made, my cross grains are coming apart because again it got waterlogged. This one's important to me. This is I got my downhill highest speed on that board, so we'll hang on to that one. The graphic still looks good, so it'll make good decoration. Got some old Riddle R1s on it too, so that's pretty cool. We'll hang on to those. This is a prototype mountain board mold that hasn't even been pressed yet, so we'll keep that. This is plaster that fell out of the ceiling. That's gotta go. Little pieces of veneer and powder surfer grip, trash. However, big pieces of veneer, probably worth keeping. Breather ply for the back bag, gotta keep that, even though it looks like garbage. Oh, trash. I'm starting in the back to try to just get myself some space, and then once this is cleared up and a little bit more organized, I'll be moving things out of the main shop so that I can organize it better. I gotta get the powder surfer molds out of there. The 3D printed molds, we can move all of that back here to give us more room to organize in there. Synthesizer and pedal board that I built and then decided I didn't like is up for grabs. If anybody wants it. I think this back table is going to continue to be storage for big stuff like molds. I want to be more particular about what I put back here. I'm not going to keep it for materials. I really need to figure out my material organization. This is still good foam, but it's not going to go here anymore because this is material. And there's going to be some solution for materials. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but that's part of what we're figuring out today. Mountain board mold that still needs to be pressed. And we'll move our powder surfer mold back here. The last board might not have worked out so good, but the mold works great, so we definitely want to keep that. I'm going to put the core that we're working on back here too, just to get it out of the way, but in the grand scheme of organizing things, a half-finished core would not go on the molds section of the shop. But we'll keep it there for now, because at least for now, I've got a lot more half-finished projects than I have molds. Version 2 of the 3D printed skateboard mold. This is probably going to end up being trash because the corners got crushed, but I'll hang on to it until I've made its replacement. Here's what's left of version 1 of the 3D printed skateboard mold. It fell apart. No reason to keep it. Let's toss it. I think I've got a couple other things that would make sense to put back here for now. This is a replacement part for the press that needs a little bit more work to get put into place. So that's going to go here. This is just a big chunk of wood that I'm probably going to use to make a bench. I think this is moved from being the mold section to the big chunks of stuff section. So we've got big chunks of stuff that aren't useless. We've got foam and wood. Got a couple other big pieces of wood that could probably come down here. But that kind of starts to make sense to me. Alright, we're back out front. I think the next category of thing that needs to be organized is hand power tools and hand power tool stuff. I sell hand power tools and hand power tool accessories. Some of this stuff has boxes, some of this stuff does not. Some of it I want easy access to, some I don't care if it's kind of tucked away. I've acquired quite a few more hand tools since the last time I did organize this particular type of tool, so I'm going to try to come up with a solution for that now. In all fairness, on the scale of want to be able to pull it out at a moment's notice, Jigsaw is probably on the top, but put it away for now to make sure everything's nice and tight. I don't like this. This is dumb. No, Jigsaw's staying out. Jigsaw's staying out. Put the box away. I'm not going to use it anyway, so why bother? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's how I like to store a Jigsaw. Like, I don't even... Maybe this is one of the keep out of the box ones too. This is dumb. This kind of thing becomes a problem for me because I hate packing and then unpacking stuff. It's just a waste. It's too many extra actions. It's stupid. This is stupid. I don't like this. What even is this? This is Bosch, right? Is it the right box? No. Yes, it is the right box. No, I am not going to be using it. This, and this don't have boxes. So I've got this area over here that I've kind of been using for tool storage. It's got a single shelf and there's actually a bracket for a second shelf in place already. I'm going to put that second shelf in. I'm going to keep the accoutrement that comes with the tools, all of the bits, the cutoff discs, the belts, the blades. I'm going to put them on one shelf so that I can use them for different tools. Like the saw blades could go into a table, the drill bits could be used both with the hand drill and the drill press, so that way I can get at them kind of independently, and then the tools themselves will go on the other shelf. But in order to do that, I have to cut a new shelf. After staring at those shelves and seeing how tightly packed they were, I decided rather quickly that I needed a third shelf, so I cut out another piece of board, dropped it into place, put some tools onto it. I was also left with some extra space, so I took some materials for some future projects and just dropped them in to have them closer at hand. Next up, I think, has to be all of this plastic. I've got some leftover HDPE and polypropylene from the recycled snowboard base. I've got some HDPE and LDPE bags that I want to reuse for a project soon. I've got some sheet left over from that, and then I've got a ton of PLA for failed prints and other projects that came off the 3D printer. This is all stuff that I'm hoping to be able to reuse and recycle and make into something new, but for now it's just taking up a ton of space. So I've got a couple more of these buckets. I think I'm going to try to break stuff down, compact it down so it's not taking up so much space, so it's organized by material, make it easier to access, and so I can tuck it away and not worry about it. You can just smash it. Look at that. You can just smash it. So I learn something every time I'm down in the shop, even if I'm not doing a project. The thing that I learned today is, even though PLA is really brittle, it's way stronger than I thought it was. But you can smash it with a hammer. For the whole time I've had the shop, I've had this bookshelf type thing over here, and the top of it, as many horizontal surfaces are prone to do because I'm not a particularly organized person, has become a catch-all. For any tool that I use often enough that I'm not putting it away in the bins, it went on top of that shelf. And honestly, for my needs, that worked pretty well. But I would have to dig through stuff. There's always a risk you're going to cut yourself. And I saw this idea on our beloved series of connected tubes to use magnetic knife holders like you have in your kitchen. We actually have 2 upstairs to hold some of your tools, get them up off of your flat surfaces. But it doesn't require you to do pegboard work. It doesn't require you to have drawers and all those extra interactions of taking it and putting it away, which I've already said. Better button. So I really like that idea, and I just built myself a small tool rack, 2 bars of which are those magnetic holders, and then I can put my handled tools on the bottom shelf. It got them all up out of my catch-all space. Well, not all of them, most of them, out of that catch-all space, and up into a place where I can grab them and have them in hand as easily as possible. Back to that bookshelf, box shelf piece of furniture. That actually did have kind of an organizational system to it, but it was pretty outdated. Things were starting to cross-pollinate in ways that were making it hard to know where things were going to be. So I pulled everything out of that and started organizing it like with like. The first thing that I pulled together was what I'm thinking of as sculpture stuff. Now this isn't like everything sculpture. Wood is sculpture, metal sculpture, but this is a particular kind of sculpture that fits a single category in my brain. And that's things like molding silicone, casting epoxies, mold release, modeling clay to seal up your boxes for doing that sorts of things, clay tools, plaster of Paris, squeegees and rubberized things to be spreading all that around and smoothing things out. So if I ever need to look for anything that falls into that category and that definition that I'm kind of having a hard time communicating, I know what I mean, and this is my shop, so that's good enough. If I ever need anything that falls into that category, I know where to look for it. The next group of things was adhesives. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Anytime you're taking things and sticking together by putting stuff in between the stuff you're sticking together and you're not welding, it goes down there. Next group of things that I wanted to tackle was dyes and inks, which includes your kind of standard dyes like the bottles for the giant 3D printed markers, but it also includes screen printing inks, block printing inks, and RIP dyes, which I find super useful. Those all got grouped together and put down here. And then a fun thing happened because I had a big pile of tape that I didn't know what to do with. I was like, oh, where's this tape gonna go? And I had some freed up shelves. So now I have a shelf full of tape. Hooray, happy accident. The next thing I did was give the shop a thorough for a wood shop, dusting and sweeping. On top of all the dust that gets generated from saws and woodworking tools, and as we're cutting through all this material, this house is falling apart. And every couple months it deposits a really, actually pretty thick layer of super fine dust. It can't be healthy. It's probably made of terrible things that are giving me cancer. But I wanted to sweep it up and get it out, along with all of the detritus. Detritus is the word, I looked it up. That was covering the floor, and you can just see as I'm sweeping that it's billowing this super fine silt dust to the point where every time I sweep up down here, I have to go leave for a while for like an afternoon to let that all settle before I can come back and work without a mask or turn the camera back on. It's just not worth being down here when all that stuff's floating around. But we got that wrapped up. And then the last thing to do was move 7 bags of trash up and out to the street. 7 bags, which is maybe about a bag a month since the last time I cleaned down here. I should probably do that more often. But when all's said and done, I'm super happy with the outcome. I now have a space, my meta tool here, that is much more functional. I've got clear walkways. I don't have to be worrying about stuff underfoot. I always know where to look for things. If I keep up good practices, they'll always be where I expect them to be. The things that I need most are close at hand. I can grab a power tool, I can grab a hand tool. They're easy to take out, they're easy to put away. I don't have to worry about all kinds of opening and closing and walking, and they're just there. I can just, yeah, there we go. The organizational system in the shelves is way better and it's clean, and I cleared out a bunch of stuff that wasn't getting used. Much better organization with our materials and molds in the back. That is both easier to navigate from a mental space of where's my phone, where's my backing boards, where's my skateboard material, and easier to navigate from literally I need to walk between all of this big stuff. Yeah, feels good. It's a weight off. It's really just nice to have a clean shop, and I feel like I'm ready to tackle all the projects that are on the docket for the spring. Speaking of which, here's what's up next. The next project I'm tackling is that experiment to figure out how to bond HDPE to resin. I need to do that in order to continue with the powder surfer project. I really want to get a base on that thing. I don't really care that it's getting towards the end of the season. If I finish that up and there's no snow, I'll have it for next year to ride. But it's almost like a pride thing at this point. That needs to get wrapped up. And then after that, we're going to be moving on to more warm weather projects. We're going to get back into content around building skateboards, longboards, going to get into mountain board content this year. I hope might get wet. There might be some beachy water projects. I have some ideas, but I'm not really sure if that's a direction I want to go in yet. Actually, if you have an opinion, let me know. In general, you know, I'm kind of planning my year right now. I'm trying to figure out what kind of projects I can tackle over the course of the year as I achieve some other goals that I have for the channel and for the company. So tell me what kind of content you want to see. I know there's some things that get asked for over and over again, and I'm really hoping to get them out this year as well. I know this video was a bit of a departure from our normal content, but it needed to get done, and as I was going through the process of cleaning and reorganizing the shop, I just kept thinking of it like a design problem. And I thought it would be kind of cool, since it needed to get done anyway, to share my thinking about that with you. I hope you got some value out of it. If not, that's cool. Just hit subscribe, we'll get back into board building right away. I know that's why you guys are here. That's how I want to spend my time. So we'll get right back into it. Thanks again for sticking around. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Well, you try to learn something every day, and the thing that I learned today is even though what is 3D printer filament made of? Works just as intended.